In the first part, we saw that radioactivity in the ocean comes from both natural sources and anthropogenic origins. Nuclear bomb test or nuclear accident. Radioactive particles are exchanged in the ocean at various locations. And now, let's see what these movements of radioactive particles can tell us about Earth's dynamics. All these exchanges are modeled, represented here by boxes, and each rate is a parameter in the model. For instance, this box represents assimilations by living organisms in the oceans, and it's still very complex. If we zoom, we can detail the model traffic chains with plants, zooplankton, benthos, etc. By following all these exchanges, there are many parameters that can be determined to create dynamic models. So now, let's take a look at the different evolution models. For example, the first one is box models, where the sea is divided into homogeneous boxes and the boxes evolve over time. Here, the North Sea is divided into boxes studied after Chernobyl. In each box, there is a certain quantity of radioactive elements in the different possible states as seen previously. There are also Euclidean models, where we look at parameters at a given point in the ocean, and Lagrangian models, where we statistically track particles. These measurement campaigns have allowed a better understanding of how oceans function. For example, among the first historical results were visualizing that layers in the ocean are stable with few vertical exchanges. Here we see on this analysis from the 70s to the 90s that radioactivity is found at the surface level, or again more recently, on this analysis following Fukushima, we see horizontal layers with pictoclines that separate the surface layer from the depth. The analysis of radioactivity also allows us to observe the evolution of ocean currents over long periods and make predictions. From ships that were in the Antarctic, as in here north of Greenland, researchers have shown that there has been a shift from a cyclonic mode of water in 1984 to an anticyclonic mode in 2015, where the currents have changed direction, taking into account waters arriving in Antarctica from both the Pacific and the Atlantic. Through the analysis of radioactive elements in cold gross rings, another study shows that the importance of the Kuroshio current have changed in the Pacific around Japan. Finally, we can talk about learnings over even longer periods, spanning millions of years, with natural radioactivity, much like carbon-14 dating. Beryllium in the atmosphere is transformed into a radioactive element by solar activity. These radioactive and non-radioactive beryllium elements fall into the ocean to the bottom, where they are integrated into the gross rings of polymetallic nodules. Over time, the radioactive version decays because the radioactive beryllium has a half-life of several 100,000 years. So depending on the layer in the nodule, we will not have the same proportions of radioactive and non-radioactive beryllium. Thus, we have been able to determine the growth rate of these nodules, such as this one at a few millimeters per million years. This means that they have grown on the ocean floor at 5,000 meters depth without moving an inch for millions of years. This is the underside, and this is the top that grew more quickly. This means that it didn't even roll. And it is upon this thought that I leave you to reflect on the extraordinary stability of the ocean floor that humanity wishes to exploit to make electric vehicle batteries from the cobalt contained in these nodules.